morning. Had an interesting weekend from a streamer's perspective. One of my videos broke 10,000 views on a couple different social platforms. Maybe more like 15,000 if you count all three of them. We had some real progress on Facebook for the first time. A couple new followers on Facebook. Took off there. I don't pay to boost anything, because why would I? So that was interesting. I hit 3,000-4,000 views on there. And, I guess the part that matters is conversation. There is some lively conversation going on with people in the comments. And there's just a lot of misunderstandings. Most of it's not directed towards me, it's directed towards one another. I certainly don't want to be promoting conflict with people on platforms, but I think that some people might be looking for that. I think they're looking for someone to get mad at, someone to argue with, and maybe to some extent I'm helping them scratch their itch. There's been nothing really personal against me. There's been some name calling and different attitudes, but it's helping me learn about the public and the sorts of things that you encounter, what goes through people's minds. I guess the most abrasive comments towards me in the videos is this idea that I was purposefully holding up traffic when I moved to the left lane to let a semi over. I have to say, I'm not going to explain myself, because the folks in the comments on my side did a great job. I'm not here to have arguments. I will say that I'm completely comfortable with my actions. Ouch, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. Bad messaging. I am going to say that I am completely comfortable with my actions. Don't believe that those criticisms are valid. And most people agree. As I've stated in my previous videos since then, in defense of myself, there was nobody in the left lane behind me. There just wasn't. There was no one there. And I was faster than a governed truck, okay? That's really all I'm going to say, is that I was going faster than the truck, whether you could observe it or not, and that there was nobody else behind me. The idea that I'm mad at somebody for going 20 miles over the speed limit, well, you know what? I'll stand by that too. There's a lot of people who defend the street racers who were going 85, think that they weren't going fast enough. Also, this idea that a speeding ticket is like paying for parking. It's not. Okay? Someday, if I have interviewed guests join me for these talks, I'm going to have law enforcement come in here and just chat about important safety topics. Seatbelts need to be worn. It's not a price of doing business. It's important for saving lives. And so is speeding, controlling speed. There's a reason why it's arrestable to drive so many miles over the speed limit. It's because you're posing a significant danger to yourself and others. And if there are people out there who don't know that, listen up. It's not a joke. And I know when you're 18 to 20 years old and you don't see it, maybe. I know I didn't see it. I can say I've done some very reckless things in my teenage years behind the wheel of a car, specifically on the point of speed. But one of the things that I've done to help tamp down those urges is gravitate towards slower cars. Almost any chance I've had to select what I drive, I've picked an older pickup. I've selected, obviously this 4-cylinder car. I went to buy a car, I bought a 4-cylinder, actually it might have been a 3-cylinder car, okay? Now could it go fast if you needed it to? Yeah, in time, right? And that's the idea, is deliberate speeding versus let's punch the gas, because those are more impulsive and dangerous choices. Did I take that 3-cylinder car over 100 miles an hour? Yes, I did. But could I do it without thinking about it and thinking about the space and the distance and my geographic location? I was in a very remote place, with a flat, straight road that I knew well, okay? There's a difference between doing that and doing that on a congested interstate with vehicle interactions. I encountered no vehicles the day I drove 100 miles an hour. People who do this in the cities, where children are walking to school and where people are driving to work, I'm sorry, but that's just not appropriate. And I'll die on that hill. At any rate, it was wonderful to have touched the lives of a few thousand people by having this platform and hopefully sharing awareness on issues that matter, or at least getting people to think about things that might change their daily behaviors in a way that benefits us all. The wheelbase on this CRV looks wider than I remember. And that's good, because I always was concerned with the CRV's center of gravity. I thought that it looked like a doggone, tiny shed that was going to blow over in the wind. What I'm seeing in this model, which is probably a 2020 or late teens, is a significant boost over the early 2010s. There was a death in my family, and I was given the chance to purchase the CRV. And my main concern was that narrow wheelbase. It kind of had a old school Jeep Cherokee style, or maybe even a Wrangler style wheelbase. You might also recall that Suzuki-looking Jeep that had a very narrow base, and they don't even make that anymore, in part because of the reasons I described. You can put wider wheels on them, but that really doesn't help you at the end of the day. And it is at least a lightweight vehicle, right? It has roll bars over the top. And why do you think it has those? They thought it might roll, right? Unless it was for decoration, but I doubt it. And the fact that they weren't investing in the A-pillars and a metal roof, right? Where I'm driving right now every day, do you need to be concerned about wheelbases? No, I don't think you do. If you're going to be driving on highways as your, a commute like mine, you want to think about that. one of the downsides of these efforts, these draconian efforts to limit emissions and fuel efficiency. It leads to compromises that really translate into safety, because there's a trade-off, right? You either give up exterior strength, tensile strength of steel, metal bumpers, as you can see, a plastic bumper here. You give up wider wheelbases, you give up a lot of things that help you stay safe in order for someone to tick off a check mark in a government regulation. And it's an interesting point because, 99.5% of a car's life, probably a little more than that, is spent in a non-accident setting. There's the day of the accident, the day it's repaired, downtime, it's not on the road. Should you prepare the car and treat the car as if it's going to be in an accident, if for more than 99% of its life it won't be? Well, for the people inside on that day, it's pretty important. This Tesla up here I like. It has a lot of power, obviously. Might be their sad excuse for an SUV. But their SUV is such a non-SUV. It's not high. Again, focused on range and use and the practical nature of an electric obfuscates pretty much all the fun elements. If they ever issued that pickup truck, now that's a different example. It doesn't state a model, does it? It just says dual motor. I suppose these have storage in the front and rear. This hatch that opens up is not going to be an engine, I don't think. I believe the motor and battery are both located under the car. The right choice going north. Closer you are to 7 a.m., the smoother your ride is to 435. Game yesterday, which was like commuting for an extra day. Fun though. I think I understand why people enjoy that as a hobby. business or something, but even so, I'm told that's not deductible. So why limit yourself to business uses if it isn't deductible anymore? My vacation is going to happen. I would say 50% of the vacations I plan, I don't actually go on for various intervening reasons. And as much as I expected some to pop up this time, it's almost been the opposite. The only real hang-up was potentially changing jobs. And let me tell you, changing jobs with a vacation hanging over you is a very bad look. I don't like it at all. Yeah. It's a good idea to get that past behind me, in the past, over with. I think I appreciate that. Battery permits to run this camera maybe on the way home from the airport with my family in the car. That could be kind of fun. There's a certain group of people, I think the dynamics between me and my family are pretty entertaining. I'm not so sure I agree with that. Kind of negative. See it as a positive. Good. Or you're just being nice, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't do it on the way to the airport because I think the phone battery is just probably too important on a day when you're traveling. And boarding pass, notifications, and everything's all on the phone. Plus, I'd rather not know the specific days and dates that I'm gone. To the extent I could be stalked. I suppose anybody could be stalked. cargo space in addition to third row. This car's located in the inner city somewhere. Listed for sale for $2,500. It's a 2004, so it's 2 years newer than this car. But it also has a lot of things in common. The 04 has the same wheels as the 02, things like that. It's sort of like sister models. But they do have slightly newer things, different steering wheel, dashboard, things like that. This vehicle, this Escalade, semi's coming, speed demon's coming. I can't do either one. Let's move it over. Anyways, this Escalade for sale has 346,000 miles. Look, there's pieces of the body that are missing. It's been through hell, but it's also been through 346,000 miles and change. Am I prepared to drive this car another 90,000 miles? Obviously, because this one's 2 years newer, certainly was used for highway traffic. Highway miles are obviously not the same as city miles, so when you're looking at a higher mileage vehicle and they try and tell you it's a highway miles situation, they're letting you know that the components of the car weren't taxed so much because it was really, the tires, the engine's in cruise, and tires wear down, tires get replaced, you're not running the brakes system, you're not doing the stops and starts, shaking, and all that. Still yet, we don't know. History has not decided what the reputation of this car is. It's just not old enough. There are certain cars like the Corvair or the Yugo or whatever where we knew pretty quickly that these just shouldn't have been built, right? Or they should have been built differently, what have you. The Pacer, whatever. And this car is not in that group, right? Hondas have their issues. Acuras have their issues. Anything that's been on the road 20, 30 years has issues. Spend money to get to the next 90,000 miles? Yeah. Will you have to cut some corners on your maintenance? Certain things. For example, this car's got some sensors that are not connected. It was my wife's car. When I found out the sensors weren't working, I said, oh goodness, maybe we should fix it. My wife says, no. This got disconnected and the hose is just hanging down, and that's how that's going to be. That's what the decision that she had made at some point in the history of the car. Maybe not the best choices, but things I hadn't learned. But the fact of the matter is despite the academic problems of the sensors not being connected, it really hasn't affected functionality. I spent several $1,000s last year on the car for things that it probably would still be running fine had I not done it. I replaced shocks, which broke almost a year later. They tried to get me to replace them again, and I said, I just bought them from you 14 months ago. He said, well, they're just cracking, they're not ruined. What else? Replaced various things, and my goal at the time was to get the engine light to go off. I thought that was a noble goal. It was a sign of a nice gesture to my in-laws who gave us the car and have their own issues with how we maintain it. But it failed. I spent several $1,000s. I drove the car 50 miles and the engine light just came back on. So, well, it's a new thing. We can try this for $300. It may not be the issue, but it's the first step of what could be many steps to getting this engine light to go on. And not only do you have to deal with each of those unknowns, but you also have this idea that each time you go in there and fool around, there's a chance that somebody messes something else up, makes it worse. I had a particularly juvenile and poorly done oil change, and I believe to this day the juveniles trainees at this place screwed up so badly they got oil in my alternator, which resulted in exactly 3 days later a complete failure of the vehicle on the highway. Lights went out, total darkness. The electrical system was done. So the alternator goes out, the battery does its best to keep up. Battery can't do it. So I drove it to work and back maybe twice. Yeah, on that second or third drive home, the whole thing just died. I rolled up a ramp. It died on the ramp towards where I go to Costco. I couldn't put on flashers or anything because without the alternator recharging the battery completely died. It's getting dark. Roadside assistance app or somebody, phone line, I don't remember. They were sending a tow truck. A total stranger pulled off, maybe more than one. They really were quite interested in getting into my business. This lady wanted me to tow my car to her house, well, her place. It was probably a remote location, and have her brother come look at it. She said it would save me a lot of money. You know, if you believe in angels coming to your doorstep, well, she might have been one, but I didn't want to hear it. I also didn't want to trust her. Better for worse. It's not making the same money that I was today. I didn't have a cash reserve for vehicle repairs. Instead, I selected the nearest mechanic. She told me they were rip-offs, and I didn't listen. I selected that as a destination in the app or whatever, and dropped it off on a night drop. My wife came out and got me and brought me home. And the next day, it $200. Well, they wanted something like $700, $900, maybe more than that. And they were going to they insisted on replacing the battery before they would even test anything else. And that was $200. It was just a really, really bad month for me because, and it really probably was someone else's fault. I could, this place I went, I never went back there. It was Valvoline, drive up, drive through, 15-minute oil change, right? And there were at least 3 people trying to change the oil. One of them was a trainee. I mean, it must have been his first day. He didn't know how to do anything. And it was ugly. The manager was being kind of mean to the kid. It was just... My window's down. I'm sitting in the car listening to this nonsense. And wondering what's going to happen. Jiffy Lube is another place I used to go. My dad used to call them Jiffy Rip because he thought they ripped him off. He didn't have a lot of trust for mechanics. That was passed down to me as well, but I've also learned to function in the ecosystem. I also had the liquidity to do that. I'm not sure he did. So they're probably on their way to somewhere else. Now they're moving over a lane. So he's targeting his older car. He's pulling over. Well, they're in the shoulder. They're going pretty fast. You gotta have good brakes as a law enforcement because when you pull over a vehicle, you don't really know how quickly they're gonna stop. Got to have, as Elwood Blues would say, cop brakes, because you're going to have these cars brake check you. You're going to be surprised. I would think that would be part of the training. That's an important part of the training. And if you do have stronger brakes, it affects the whole way you drive. If it's a special braking system that is different from civilian vehicles. That means that you go to stop in your service vehicle and you might squeal the tires because you're used to driving something different. I'd be interested to learn more about that when I have a law enforcement person join me in my commute someday, which I think is appropriate. The question is, what is most appropriate? Perhaps an elected sheriff with patrol experience, maybe an up-and-coming person looking to which municipality? Should it be someone I drive through? Maybe not Leawood after I talk trash on them the other day. Most of the commute happens in Missouri, so maybe Jackson County. I drive through most of Jackson County. Something along those lines. Kansas City Police Department probably would have some folks happy to share their time. I would like to talk to them about they still use, I think, legacy Chevrolet sedans. No, I mean the Crown Vics. Crown Vic, sorry. Used to be Caprice, and they had to get rid of those. I believe you'll still see, because so the bigger departments, they buy these Crown Vics, you know, and they were really for the bean counters and accountants. These were great cars. You could have your own service department. You could source your own parts. You could pretty much just keep your fleets going in perpetuity with these cars. The problem is that's not what the automakers want. The automakers want you buying new cars, right? And so the more robust police departments with the resources to do it said, no, we want to keep this to go. We got a good thing here. Financially, this is sensible and smart. But now they're in the situation of controls are older, the body style's older, everything's just, the drivetrains have to be probably rebuilt. It's really about all you can do is rebuild the drivetrains, which maybe they've done once or twice already. I don't know. It makes sense. Again, I'd love to ask someone in a larger department with a little bit more bureaucratic background as well, some of those questions, because the Crown Vics were pretty great. County Sheriff, they've switched to the funny looking cars. I think KCPD has some SUVs. Most of the Kansas suburbs have the SUVs. But I want to say that bigger cities like NYPD, I think, still has Crown Vics, I think. Kansas City definitely does too. It's pretty cool. And what's wild is they quit. They totally phased these cars out. You couldn't even buy new ones. And it's been at least 5 years. Could be more since you could buy these cars. It might be closer to 10 years. I find that really interesting that they're working with these fleets that have, you know, essentially limited factory support. They might be completely cut out of the OEM market for parts now on purpose, relying solely on aftermarket components. I mean, that becomes dangerous, right? At some point, you just can't rely on Chinese knockoffs to fulfill your fleet. But at the same time, it would be pretty damaging to America's law enforcement to provide no factory support. So, anyways, strange things that I find interesting. In 2013, early spring, I rented I think it was a Mercury Grand Marquis. It was the Priceline Surprise Me deal for $10 a day or something, right? It worked out well because I had to drive a few folks around, and it was an older car at the time, had, I don't know, more than 10,000 miles on it probably. But you understand the fun of these big cars that really aren't even made anymore. That was the tail end, and even then it seemed like a relic of a different era, you know, the 1990s Grandma sedan or something. But kind of fun. It was fun to drive it. I drove it through a different state I'm usually driving, and a couple different states, 3 different states. Had fun. Fun cars. I've actually almost bought a Crown Vic. You can buy them from the police auctions or the police auction, you know, secondhand, whatever. You could get one for about $3,000. Granted, high mileage, you know, they're tired of maintaining it for a reason. This would be the Crown Vic, the Ford model. Had the spotlight on the side and everything. My wife was not on board at all. But I thought it would be really cool to have one. I didn't live where I live now. It was probably a little more friendly to the idea where I was living, but when my wife got upset, that almost made me want it more. You know, this idea that I could just buy a car in cash. There's going to be a million resources on maintaining it. The question I had to ask is, who would my company be? Probably teenagers, right? That's not who I want my company to be. Who I brand myself as. Which is funny because the car I have now is kind of the same thing. It's worth about the same. It's got more functionality. But I went to pick up a pizza. And the kid running the pizza shop, when I say running, I mean paid $9 an hour to run it. He had the same car as me, parked outside, except it was an ESV, which was a more expensive upgrade. Had better wheels on it, you know, than me. Like, well, shoot. The customer and the clerk are no different. But you know what, though? That doesn't always mean that that's something about me. A lot of people caught up in predatory arrangements, cars that they can't necessarily afford, but they think they have to afford, or they want to look, they want a certain look, and so on. And that's not the way to live, in my opinion. You're welcome to do it if you can do it, but who cares what I think? Alright, 45 minutes, closer to 50.